Welcome, everybody. I don't know if this is starting yet or not, but welcome to the Athletic MLB postseason live show. We'll be here for about 30 minutes talking about these wild card games and then the rest of the playoffs. Should be a lot of fun. Be pretty informal conversation with Nicky and Britt. We'll introduce them first. I'm Alec Lewis, the Royals beat writer at The Athletic. Nicky Lopez, the Royals shortstop, and then Britt Ghiroli is our national MLB writer. We're going to talk pretty in depth, but also kind of preview these games. I'll ask first. I mean, how are you guys, Nicky? 4 days, season's been over for 4 days. How much of a change in lifestyle is that going from 162 to, I guess, now relaxing?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Pleasure talking to you guys. But yeah, it's a big difference. You know, you go in your everyday routine playing 162 games. My first 162 games finally, and then it goes to a halt, and you don't know what to do with yourself for the next 4 days. So it's been pretty crazy, but I'm back talking baseball already. It's probably quicker than I thought I would.
And then Britt, we know you're at a ballpark somewhere. What's up?
I am. I'm in Houston for Game 1 of the White Sox Astros, which I think is no one's really talking about it that much. I feel like other series are overshadowing it, but we've got Dusty Baker versus Tony La Russa. You guys just know there's going to be some kind of controversial decision that's going to happen. It's going to be a really, really fun series. I'm excited for it.
Cool. Well, we're gonna kind of get into. We'll have some pictures, some highlights from last night. We'll start with the AL wild card and then transition to the most exciting one, which is the NL wild card. The Red Sox obviously played the Yankees at Fenway. The Red Sox won 6-2. Nicky, what's it like playing at Fenway?
Fenway is one of those hostile environments. One of those that it's actually you don't know what to expect until you go there and you actually live it up. And I tell my parents and I tell everyone I really am close to that you have to come to a game in Boston because you won't get the full feel until you're there. And you know the crowd's right on you. The crowd is talking to you the whole game, yelling at you. And then there's a long walk from the dugout to the home plate, so you try not to strike out. You try not to get out because they'll let you know. But it's there's so much history there. Being able to sign the Green Monster and being able to just kind of be there and play on that field that has so much history is definitely a one that I will never forget.
The game was kind of crazy. Obviously, Gerrit Cole was on the mound for the Yankees and only lasted, I think, 2 innings. Britt, what stood out to you with that game?
Yeah, what's crazy, guys, is I had watched the Red Sox that whole last week. They were in Baltimore. They were in Washington, D.C. I was like, God, there's no way they're going to win this wild card game. Like, they looked brutal. They dropped 2 or 3 to the Orioles. They really should have lost probably that last game in D.C. The Nationals, very much a rebuilding team, didn't have the pitching to hold that lead. But you look at what happened to Gerrit Cole, and I don't know if it was a hamstring. I don't know if it was just he was simply off. But he was not the Gerrit Cole that they paid $300 million to come to New York to pitch in these moments for. And that's really the whole story of that game, right? Is he wasn't able to go deep. The Yankees, though, their offensive approach, they were very aggressive off Nathan Eovaldi. And I thought really not enough people were talking about how good Nathan Eovaldi was. Everyone was talking about how good Gerrit Cole was. But, Nicky, from your perspective, you look at Eovaldi and it just seems like we're starting to see the pinnacle of him, which is unusual because he's not young. He's been in the league for a while. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries, and yet he went out there and he pitched probably the game of his life to get the Red Sox to advance.
Yeah, Nathan Eovaldi, I mean, that's something that, based off of experience, is someone that should be talked about in this postseason with Scherzer, with aces. And he kind of showed it that, they're in the wild card game. Obviously, Gerrit Cole is an unbelievable pitcher as well. I've faced both of them, but it looks like Eovaldi is someone that you don't really want to see in the playoffs. And it was a great game. Obviously, clutch hitting and some key plays that just kind of swang the other way. That it looked like wasn't going to go, Boston's way and then go Yankees way. But in the end, it all worked out. It was crazy.
I wanted to ask you, Nicky, about this Aaron Judge trying to go home from first, go from first to home. Your base running ability was something that stood out all year. I think Fangraphs ranks you as one of the best base runners. I wonder, just when you're on first and a ball's hitting the gap like that, and in a moment like that where the team needs as many runs as possible, what is there something that goes through your head in that type of moment? Just what on the base pass goes through your head in that type of situation?
Yeah, especially in a key game, especially a key moment, where you can gain some momentum. A ball hit that you see that's going to probably split the gap. That one thing is that at Boston, at Fenway Park, there's a lot of angles, a lot of the big ball comes off the wall differently. So one thing you just have to do as a base runner, that ball is going to hit off the wall. You just got to keep running, pick up the third base coach, because obviously the play is behind you. And what a relay from Kike to X-Man, and threw the guy out at home plate. It was one of those that Yankees score, they have the momentum, but I mean the momentum was shifted right back to the Boston with a great relay. So one of those things though, as a base runner, you just got to put your head down. You got to haul, and Judge can move for a big dude, but it was just a great relay.
Britt, what'd you think of that throw from Bogaerts?
I mean, like Nick said, that was a great play. To me, like, those are the kind of plays that you watch in the postseason and you're like, this is what you watch. You watch these kinds of great defensive plays for the split-second decisions that end up mattering. So I thought it was a great play. I really did. I thought that game in general, I thought both wildcard games, they couldn't have asked for anything more. And I know people hate on the format of the wildcard games, right? Like the Dodgers, if they had lost last night, we'd be talking about, well, should they get rid of this? But listen, Rob Manfred is here in Houston. He just mentioned to me before I came up here that he was in LA. He was at both wildcard games. And you can say what you want about the wildcard format, but that one game playoff, the atmosphere, the energy that goes into those games, it's unbelievable. It is so fun to watch. I mean, I was falling asleep. I had a travel day yesterday, and I'm like, I can't go to bed until this game is over. Like baseball, it gets made fun of for being slow and boring, and these wildcard games are anything but.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, is that when people watch 162 games, they think baseball can kind of get stale, kind of get, very slow pace, but it just shows how truly exciting baseball can be and how baseball is. And, what better way to start the postseason than two really good wild card games?
There was a question from Twitter, and I'll ask you real quick, and then we'll jump to the National League. What is kind of a broad one, but Nicky, what's the hardest ballpark to play in? I don't know if that's hit in. I don't know if that's hit a homer in. If that's probably Kauffman Stadium. If that's it. But what's the hardest ballpark to play in?
Hardest ballpark to play in. I know a lot of people. It helps being from Chicago. It helps being a hometown kid, so they kind of take a little bit, take it easy on me. But White Sox is a pretty tough ballpark to play in, especially now since they're a very good team. Yankee Stadium, another hostile crowd, and obviously Fenway. As far as like tough places to play, obviously, like you said, the big ballpark at Kauffman Stadium, but it actually helps me a lot because it gives me a lot of open grass because I'm not trying to hit home runs very much.
Yeah, I knew the Kauffman Stadium Royals answer is obvious. Transition to the National League wild card real quick. It was an unbelievable, like you said, Britt, unbelievable game. I thought Albert Pujols was going to do something that we would talk about probably forever. But the Dodgers won 3-1. Britt, how much you kind of talked about how much fun did you have watching the way it played out?
It was a blast. I mean, I covered Max Scherzer for 2 years in DC. So as soon as Dave Roberts walked out to that mound, I'm like, oh God. Like, nobody wants to be the guy that takes the ball from Max Scherzer. And it was hilarious. He shook his hand, right? Didn't want to give him the ball. But that ended up paying off. That decision, which we would have been talking about today if it backfired, right, ended up really paying off. The Dodgers were able to get their bullpen in there and shut down the Cardinals, who had a lot of runners on early, certainly some opportunities. But what I take out of that is, the Dodgers bullpen, Kenley Jansen, who has kind of been much maligned in October, is filthy. Like I don't know if I've missed it. I don't know how you guys felt, but I was like, whoa, This is a different Jansen than I've seen. I took that out of it. And I also think the Cardinals deserve like one last clap, because what they were able to do, winning 17 straight, clinch that postseason spot, they narrowly were defeated, right? This was a really close game that could have gone either way several times. And I think it's important to look at the Cardinals and say, like, this team is good. They're young. They're dangerous. Their outfield is incredible. And I think they're going to be good for a long time, health permitting as well.
Nicky, I wonder Adam Wainwright at 40 was doing what you faced Waino. What makes him so tough as you're thinking about that at bat against him?
Yeah. What makes Wainwright so tough is that he won't, blow up the radar gun. He'll sit 90, he'll sit 89, 90, but he'll throw that cutter in on your hands. Then he'll throw that curveball that drops from the moon. And then he'll just hit his spots. He rarely misses his spots. He pitches like a veteran pitcher and always wants the ball. And it will just come right at you. And, those are the pitchers that are, I wouldn't say easy to face 95, but when he just throws it 95 right down the middle or doesn't know where to locate it, sometimes those guys are easier to hit than those guys that are throwing the cutters in. And it was actually really fun to watch him and Yadier Molina work yesterday. And I know they both signed contracts again, so I'll see them next year as well.
I also wonder, you didn't face the Dodgers this year. Obviously, they made the trade, as Britt mentioned, Scherzer and Trey Turner. I wonder, what's the player perspective when you see a trade like that go down for a team that already is as loaded as they are? What do you think of them acquiring those two?
Yeah, it's like one of those trades that you're like, all right, they don't need them. They're already good as they are. And when they got Turner and they got Scherzer, it's one of those things. It's like, all right, well, I'm glad they're in the NL and I'm glad they're on that side because you don't have to face them. It's a different thing if the White Sox got them or the Indians or the Twins. You're like, all right, now I got to face these guys 19 times or whatever it is. So. I'm glad they're on the NL West and not in the AL Central.
Britt, I mean, you mentioned it. You covered Scherzer. I mean, for him to, I guess, get through the 4 or so innings with allowing 1 run without his best stuff. I mean, how quintessential Scherzer was that for a guy who is as competitive as he is?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that was vintage Scherzer. In 2019. He couldn't move his neck, and 2 days later, he's starting in the World Series in Game 7, right? So that is him. That is what he does. You knew he was going to compete. You knew he thought in his mind that he could continue pitching in that game, and that's what you love about that guy. Because he doesn't want to come out of the game. He doesn't care if he doesn't have his best stuff. He's going to find a way. And watching him last night, I'm like, oh, he didn't look that great, but I love that Max. I love that competitive, find a way Scherzer, and I thought one of his better sequences of the night was when he struck out. I think it was O'Neill before Dave Roberts went and got him. So there, a case could have been made that he was on a roll a little bit there. He could have maybe turned the corner there. I don't know how you felt about that, Nicky, as a player, but I would have probably left him in for that inning and seen what he had done. Could he get out of that?
Yeah, no, I think you could say the same thing about the AL wild card with them taking out Eovaldi. I know. There was a lot of questions about that as well. But again, you take out Scherzer and you have that bullpen that just stepped up, and that was fun to watch. It was a pitcher's duel all the way to end, and then somehow I feel like Chris Taylor is always in the middle of all of the Dodgers' success. So you gotta cheer for. It's easy to cheer for players that play the game hard and can play all over the diamond. Obviously, we have one of those guys on our team with Whit, and it's easy to cheer for guys like that actually play the game hard and respect the game. And but it always seems like Chris Taylor is right in the thick of it, and he got a hanging slider and just didn't miss it.
I had one more quick one, and then we're gonna throw it to break, and then we'll come back. But I was wondering this with Paul Goldschmidt, who seems so quiet. He's over there at first, and there's obviously Albert Pujols, Nicky. I wonder, like, who? This is broad, but who is a guy that you talk to standing on first or rounding the bases that's low key funny in a way that we might not know? I wonder if there's anybody that comes to mind for you in terms of funniness that we would not expect.
Low-key funny. Actually one guy that I talk to a lot when I'm on the base pass is Jonathan Scope from Detroit. I wouldn't say he's a funny guy, but he's actually super like respectful, like always nice to me, and just kind of a pro. So I like talking to him, and obviously Miggy's one of the funniest guys on in the game right now. So whenever he's on base, I always like to chat it up with Miggy. So you gotta take advantage of it while you can, because I don't know how many more years they have left, but when you have a chance to talk to Pujols at first, or you have a chance to talk to Miggy or guys like that, you gotta take advantage of it.
Cool. Well, yeah, we're gonna send it. We'll throw it to break for about a minute. Then we'll come back. We'll preview the NLDS, ALDS, Giants, Dodgers. We'll talk a little Jorge Soler with the Braves. So stay right with us. We'll come back in a minute.
I'm Dan Sanromita, sports betting editor at The Athletic, and here are a few betting notes to keep an eye on during the division series. First, Dodgers versus Giants. It's easy to love this series because of the records and the rivalry. The Giants won 107 games and the Dodgers won 106. Only the 2001 Mariners and the 1998 Yankees have won that many games dating back to the 50s. The Dodgers are the only lower-seeded team favored in a DS at minus 155 to the Giants plus 130. That's with Clayton Kershaw out and Max Scherzer likely limited to one start after starting in the wildcard game on Wednesday. Second, the Rays are not favored to win the AL pennant, despite being the top seed. It's actually the Astros at plus 210, while Tampa is plus 240, and that's with the Rays being a bigger favorite in their DS against the Red Sox than the Astros are against the White Sox. Finally, futures. The Dodgers are the current favorite to win the World Series at plus 240. The Giants are plus 700. They could become the favorite by the LCS if they get past the Dodgers. For now, the Astros are second favorite at plus 475, followed by the Rays, Astros, and White Sox.
All right, welcome back to the Athletics postseason MLB live show. Here with Nicky Lopez and Britt Ghiroli talking some of these ALDS and NLDS matchups. We'll start where Britt is for the White Sox and the Astros. Nicky, I think you played the White Sox about 100 times over the last couple of years. What is it like when you play a team as much as you guys played the White Sox, and what are the challenges, I guess, with that?
Yeah, it's kind of tough playing a team a lot and then in a short amount of time too. It seemed like halfway through, I think it was like July or June or whatever, where we would play them and then we would go somewhere else and play them again at home. You see them a lot. You can do a pro or cons, but you see the pitchers a lot. You see the bullpen a lot, but they also see you a lot. So it's easy to make their adjustments on you as well. So I think that's just the biggest thing, is that there's a plan for everything, and that's something that I actually had to get used to about like 3 years into this now. But I had to get used to is that they're planning on you as much as you're planning on them, and it's one of those things. Baseball's a game of constant adjustment, and that's something that I think happens when you're playing a team, frequent.
Britt, what excites you most about this series?
God, I mentioned it earlier. I think Dusty Baker versus Tony La Russa is going to be fascinating. What's interesting to me is the White Sox have this high-powered bullpen, maybe the best bullpen in baseball, as I'm sure Nicky has seen and had to deal with. And then you have an Astros lineup who is far and away the best in baseball. They led baseball in runs scored, in offensive WAR, in WRC+. They're really deep and they make a lot of contact. So they could really kind of wreak havoc on the White Sox starters, but once you get to the bullpen, the White Sox have the clear edge. So to me, these two teams are fascinating. The push and pull, the fact that they seem to be a little opposite in many regards. Obviously, tonight you've got Lance McCullers Jr. and you've got Lance Lynn, and it's going to be a really interesting series for me to kind of watch because the White Sox defense has been terrible. They're one of the worst in baseball, and the Astros are second best behind St. Louis, who now has been eliminated. So they technically have the best defense among all the playoff teams remaining. So it's really going to be interesting to watch these two teams, both very good teams, just differently constructed. So I think it's going to go 5. I hope it goes 5. I really want to watch this epic clash continue to kind of play itself out. I think it's just going to be a really fun series, and not enough people are talking about it because there are so many other great series everywhere. But to me, it doesn't get much better than Dusty Baker versus Tony La Russa with their seasons on the line.
Nicky, with these White Sox pitchers, you got like Giolito and Carlos Rodon, potentially Lance Lynn, Liam Hendricks. Which one of those guys you don't want to face the most?
Wow. None of them. But one thing one addition to their team that wasn't really fun to face was Kimbrel. I somehow check swung and got a boop over third base on a check swing. But he's still one of those guys that is like, wow, like that's some real stuff, and that's some movement on the ball. His slider is sharp. Lance Lynn comes right at you. He's got that cutter. He's got that sinker. He's got that four seam, and then he's got that slider. So his stuff is very deceiving. But yeah, like you said, it'll be very interesting because the Astros have really good pitching as well. But it's also 2 hitter-friendly ballparks in this series as well. So you can hit a pop-up to left and in Houston and it's gone. So it'll be very interesting, but definitely going to be some pitching duels.
And then the other ALDS series, the Red Sox and the Rays. We talked a little bit about the Red Sox, and you said X-Man, Xander Bogaerts. So talk about the Rays for a second. Nelson Cruz is a guy who was obviously in the Royals division, the AL Central with the Twins for a while. Nicky, what's the player perspective on Nelson Cruz and just kind of what he's brought to the table for as long as he's been doing this?
Yeah, you gotta have respect for a guy like that. And I think I read something today when I was on the airplane. It was saying that he's looking to play beyond this year as well. He's got his 7th straight consecutive 30 home run season, which is just absolutely insane. And I was fortunate enough to ask for a signed bat, and he delivered one in my locker. So always respect him as a player. He's also someone that's very respectful to me whenever he's on the base path. So to see a guy that has success for that long and now he's going to continue playing is pretty cool.
And then
definitely not a guy that you want to. Definitely not a guy that you want to be at shortstop when he's hitting as well, because that ball is going to be coming off the bat pretty firm. So
yeah, I covered him, and what's interesting about him is he's ageless, as everyone knows, but he also would be at the ballpark really early, and he would work up until game time to be ready to play that day. So I think people make the mistake, and you guys know with Salvador Perez in Kansas City, people make the mistake of thinking like, these guys, how do these guys play? Well, they just have genetics, or they're just that good. No, there's so much work that goes into these guys as they age, continuing to take the field and continuing to produce at a high level. And that's what struck me the most about Nelson Cruz was how much work he did. He was literally never sitting by his locker doing nothing. He would be busy until the game started just so that he could play that night. And I think that's how he's been able to be this successful for this long.
Yeah, we could do a whole 30 on Salvi probably, Nicky and I throughout with what he did this season. Britt, I also wonder. I mean, this Rays rotation and the Athletics. Saris wrote about it today, but it's so many young guys. I mean, how much confidence do you have in this Rays rotation and them these young guys being able to lead this team obviously where they want to go?
Yeah, I think you have confidence because they're talented and because the way Tampa Bay is set up, they don't have to go more than 4 and 5 innings. But you are a little worried because you've got so many first-year starters, so many guys who just don't have the experience in baseball, let alone the playoff experience. And if there's one thing that kind of worries me about Tampa Bay, it's that. Last year they did have a kind of more legit rotation, right? They had Tyler Glasnow, they had Blake Snell, they had Charlie Morton. They had at least guys that they knew were going to get through that fifth inning or so, maybe even beyond. But they're Tampa Bay, right? So it's hard to say, what are they doing? Or, they're not going to be able to last because they've proven time and time again that they're smarter than us. They've got a very deep bullpen. They're going to keep coming at you, right? Like the casual fan can't name 3 players probably on their team, and yet they are the top seed in the American League. They are the deepest team that there is in terms of pitching and pitching depth and bullpen depth. They just keep coming at you with different guys, all having different looks. And so it's hard to bet against Tampa Bay, even knowing that they got 50 fewer innings than the next playoff team in Boston out of their starting rotation. You would look at that and say, oh God, aren't they going to get tired? Aren't they going to get exposed? But I don't know, because again, it's Tampa Bay. So they're probably not. They probably have invented some other metric that we don't know about that is already like, that is just, enabled them to continue to do this. It's just ridiculous to watch. It truly is.
Nicky, how tough when you're facing so many guys in a bullpen like that, one after another, each at bat is a different guy with different tendencies. How tough is that on a hitter?
It is pretty tough. It's one of those things, though, you have to stick to your approach and you kind of just have to stick to it and stick to your routines and stick to, what your strengths are. But when you see a guy just for one inning and then they bring out another guy who's probably better than the other guy and then just keep rattling off and off and off, it's like, wow, like this is pretty crazy, pretty taxing on the old on the mind. So you kind of have to just stick to your routine and just try to make the best of it. But that's why when they do like those reliever games or like the openers, those are tough games because you're seeing a new guy every single inning. And I know the Rays were like one of the first teams that ever did that. And I know baseball was like, what is going on? But it works for them because they're just bringing out guys left and right that are throwing, the ball with confidence and, with some velo.
Yeah. We'll transition to the NLDS and we'll start with Atlanta, Milwaukee. And I mentioned Jorge Soler. Nicky, are you rooting for the Braves because of Soler? Like what is, I don't know. How excited are you to watch them in this thing?
That's my brother. Best teammate, one of the best teammates I've ever had, Soler. But yeah, absolutely. I'm rooting for that guy. I'm rooting for him to do well. I still talk to him here and there. He always I reach out to him. He reaches out to me. Always has a smile on his face and a smile that lights up the room. So I'm a big Soler fan.
And then Britt, the Brewers rotation. To have Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, Nicky saw those guys back to back this year, but how tough are they going to be to knock out, you think, Britt?
I think they're going to be tough to knock out. Nicky will tell you probably how terrifying it is to get in there and stand in there, that 3-headed monster. And then most teams, you're like, well, let's just get to the bullpen. In Milwaukee, it's like, get to the bullpen. The bullpen's just as scary. Certainly, Devin Williams, not having him is going to probably hurt them. To me, the main issue with the Brewers is the offense, right? Like, are they going to be able to score enough runs to have a deep run? And they certainly could. But Atlanta's offense, it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition because Atlanta's offense is a very good deep offense that hits a lot of home runs. So what's going to give out? Traditionally in the playoffs, pitching has beaten hitting. So I do think that the Brewers have an edge here. I do wonder how much missing Devin Williams is going to maybe alter things and put guys out of their roles if you get deep into a series. But that rotation is it's ridiculous. It's very reminiscent of, the Braves teams back in the early 1990s, right? Like, not too many teams nowadays have these kind of rotations. It's a little bit of a throwback, certainly, and I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, Nicky, fun to face those guys back to back.
As much of a Jorge Soler fan I am not a fan of that Brewers starting pitching. But like you said, yeah, and then they have a bullpen to back it up too. But these guys are going to go 7 innings, 8 innings each time out. So it's not fun. It's not fun to face.
Then we talked a little bit about the Dodgers. Nicky, again, I don't think you faced the Giants this year, but Britt, to have this matchup, I know it's probably one that the entire game in itself has been waiting for. But I don't know, what What are you most intrigued by with this matchup and what's possible with the Dodgers and the Giants?
Yeah, I think it's the matchup most people wanted. Personally, I was rooting for the Cardinals last night because I like the underdog story. But it's going to be really cool. It's interesting because the Dodgers are favored, and they've been favored to win the World Series, and they're the wild card team. The Giants, like all year, we've kind of been writing off the Giants, and they just keep winning. So they have that little bit of like that extra mojo that you can't quantify. I saw it in 19 when I covered the Nationals. They were the wild card team, and nobody thought they were going to win, and they just kept winning. The Giants kind of remind me of that a little bit. I think when you look at these two teams, it's going to be a great clash. They're very familiar with each other. They've played each other a million times already, so there are no secrets. Like that. Max Muncy, is he going to be available at all during the playoffs? That's going to be important to note here, right? Like you look at the Giants, and they're a team that just does everything well. It seems like they're a little more susceptible to left-handed starters, but overall they don't have any like obvious weak spots as a team. So I think that they're probably going to advance. I hope they advance. The Dodgers had their year last year, in my opinion. This should be the Giants, which I don't know. I don't know if Nicky gets to root. I don't know how you watch this as a player. In terms of like, do you root for guys you like? Do you root for teams? Are you going to put a jersey on? Like Juan Soto?
I root for players. I root for good games. That's what I root for. And the fact that they have 200 plus wins combined is unbelievable. And like you said, it's crazy that the Dodgers had to play a wild card game to get in. But I played in the fall league with Lamont Wade, and he's one of those. He's like an unsung hero on that team, on that Giants team. So it's I'm rooting for him. So I hope he does well. But I just hope for good baseball. It's gonna be fun to watch.
I wonder too, Nicky. This is just a quick one. Is it hard to watch and not? I mean, are you watching just relaxed, or are you watching like, God, he should have gone first and third? Like, how do you watch it?
I do the second one. Like, oh, he should have done this. He should have done that. I also watch because I want to be. I mean, just you see the fans, you see how electric it is, and it's like I'm watching because I know that soon I hope to be there in that that spot. So I'm kind of just mentally preparing. So when I do get a ground ball with 40,000 people yelling at me, I know what to do.
Real quick, we'll go predictions. Britt, World Series prediction. We don't have to do who wins, but who's there. Britt, take it away.
Giants, Astros are there. The Astros, to me, are just a really good team, and I think the Giants, after the crazy season they have, deserve to be the NL representative in the World Series.
Nicky, you got predictions? Is that fair?
My predictions are whoever wins the White Sox Astros series, I think will go. And then I actually think that the Dodgers are going to do it again. I do, or I think they're going to be there again. I should say, they just always kind of find a way to win, and I think that win yesterday kind of created some momentum for them. Just a win on the walk-off fashion. Seemed like the team was all fired up. They're all together. They're all. Sometimes a big play like that can jumpstart a team, and not that they needed any jumpstart. They won 100-something games, so. But I think whoever wins the White Sox Astros series is going to be there, and then I think the Dodgers. But go Lamont Wade.
I'm going to go White Sox Giants, but no one. They have me hosting because no one cares. I guess we'll wrap it up. Nicky, I had a question from Twitter. You've talked about this, but you obviously hit 300 this season, stole I think 22 bases, and someone asked me if there was a particular moment, Nicky, where you felt like you were hitting your stride. And I know you've answered these types of questions a lot, but do any moments stand out for you in terms of the year that you had?
I think one of the moments that kind of stick out to me was that I got an Oppo bloop hit that kind of started everything going in the ninth inning to tie it or go ahead. And then it kind of just went on. I went on a kind of a roll where it seemed like I was getting 2 to 3 hits a game, was getting on with walks. And then the defense was picking up too. And it was kind of the stretch of, I think it was from middle of June, maybe even after All-Star break. And then to the end where I I was seeing the ball very well. I was very confident in myself. I was very confident in the decisions I was making, both at the plate and on the field, or on, in the field and on the base paths too. So it was kind of a moment where everything was clicking, and it's kind of hard to describe, but it was one of those moments that it was just like everything was clicking and everything was just going right, and it was pretty special.
How tough is it? And you probably want to relax. Your body probably need it, but when you played as well as you did, to just stop. How tough is it?
It was yeah, that was tough. I mean, I wish it was going for another month and a half, because I was locked in. I was very confident. Not saying that I'm not going to be confident when season rolls around next, but when you have that kind of momentum going, you want to keep playing as long as you can to keep it up. And but man, that last game, knowing that I was on the cusp of hitting 299 or 300, definitely weighed on me a little bit. Very stressful at bats. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't thinking about it, because I was. Every at bat, I was like, all right, well, I might have like one at bat here. If I don't get it this at bat, I'm going to be batting 299, and I have to just look at the back of a baseball card and see 299 instead of 300. So, but it all worked out, and it was definitely a great season. I mean, I owe it to a lot of people, but I look forward to doing it again, and just keep having fun and just keep contributing to what we have going on in the future with the Royals.
Cool. Well, Britt, enjoy being out at the ALDS. Thank you both for joining us. Thank for everybody who tuned in for watching this. I think we're going to do a few more of these as the playoffs kind of progress. We'll bring in some different guests. If you have questions, anything, provide them. We will be willing to use them. But no, thank you guys. Enjoy these playoffs. Nicky, enjoy Omaha. Good luck on the golf course.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to need it. But thank you guys, and it was very nice meeting you, Britt, and have fun in Houston.
Thanks. All right, guys. This is great.
See you guys.
Dropping in with some exciting news, The Athletic is now on TikTok too. So for more sports news, trends, and highlights, make sure to follow us here at The Athletic on TikTok.